The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette Labs. Get the ultimate shave or your money back. Neon Night Edition available now.
This is News Talk.
All right, you are welcome along to Thursdays Off the Ball. It's Nathan with you until 10 o'clock. As always, a busy show ahead. John Giles on the way, 7:30. Reflecting on Sam Allardyce's first game in charge and the Champions League semi-finals as well. We will have Anthony Nash with us after 8 o'clock. Talking about, the week that was with some GAAGO and hurling in the wilderness for the vast majority of the country, and looking ahead as well to this weekend and the clash of Waterford and Clare in the Munster Hurling Championship. And we're also going to have Dan McDonald in the studio on the football show. We're going to be chatting a bit about the season for the Irish players from the Premier League through the Championship down to League One, and some of those have had a good time of it and some of them have had a little bit of a struggle. Richie McCormack is with us. Good evening, Richie.
Hey Nathan, how are you?
I'm alright. Arthur O'D live in studio. How are you?
Fine, Nathan, how are you?
I'm alright. 53106 is the text number. So we're going to be talking to Anthony Nash, and we'll hear from him. We've been talking to him already, and Clare Waterford on this weekend. GAAGO. I did have a suggestion to make everybody a little bit happier. Sideline cam for the full match. Oh, yeah. Davy Fitz, Brian Lohan. You're paying your 12 quid. You're happy with that, aren't you?
Yeah.
Have you paid the 79 quid?
No.
What?
No, I did this.
Well, if they can't get the hurling aficionados.
Would you believe the first time I did it was for Sligo, New York? And I'll tell you what, for all it's like the last two games, I did the Tip Cork and I did Clare Limerick.
Well, now you spent 24 quid.
Yeah, I spent 24 quid,
so
which was fine.
You're getting to the stage where, do you get that off if you decide to upgrade to the 79 now? I think you might.
So.
I think you might.
Think so, no.
I wouldn't have thought so. I mean, I suppose
they should, again, just giving some free advice out here to the GAAGO, gesture of goodwill.
Why are you pursuing avenues at this stage of the show, Nathan? It's a bit bizarre.
I think we were all in shock when Malachy Clerkin came on with Joe Monday night, said that all the GAA journalists had got free GAAGO, and we all went, what? Sorry now. Sorry.
No, well, one in here does. I think he has talked about it.
Who?
Who do you think? Who do you think?
It's got to be O'Callaghan.
Of course it is. Will
O'Callaghan got the freebie. I was thinking, all right.
Midlands.
The coverage on the hurling pod was very different to the coverage I've heard elsewhere.
It was top.
Yeah. That's because they
bought,
can see
isn't he? 79 quid. I think GAAGO's great. Less hurling, more football.
Oh God, yeah. I know. It's funny, that first time I bought it for the New York Sligo game, and I thought, oof, this isn't going to end well. It was poor. Like, I remember casting it to the television off the phone, and the bottom half of you couldn't tell the score. So the score was gone. You could just see the top of the numbers.
Now, was that their problem? Was that your problem?
I've since casted to subsequent televisions, and it was fine. Okay. So I'll assume it was their problem, but I don't know. But you couldn't see the score, and there was no replays. And I think for a little while the time thing had malfunctioned a little bit. Because at one stage it was like, I think I'd lost track of time, and I was like, that's saying 34 minutes, but it's 20 past 2.
You're not selling it here. Now, maybe that's how Sligo, New York should be treated.
That's unfortunate.
Very
it's an unfortunate remark.
Well, to be honest with you, what you're describing is a lot of the first season of LOI TV, which for a lot of games had one camera swinging left to right and no replays. So, yeah, depending on what ground you're at, you were taking your life into your hands as regards what you were seeing or not seeing, as it were. Now, it has improved along the way, and I think, like a lot of these services, they kind of have to work out the kinks in their first couple of weeks.
I do find that an awful lot of the analysis of the pros and cons of GAAGO are very much built around how you consume sport, and so I don't illegally stream at all. Can you believe this?
Yes.
I've never done it.
Me neither.
Now, I know somebody who has one of the little dongles and the little box and all that, and sometimes he's around my house and I'm like, this is unbelievable. I can watch every game all the time. But I've still never gone and actually purchased this. I don't even know where you go to purchase these things. So I sit there with my Sky subscription, and I may subscribe to GAAGO if I could just flick along on my Skybox the same way I can for Netflix or Disney Plus or Apple TV or any of them, and I didn't have to take out a laptop or have an app and Chromecast and all that sort of stuff.
Chromecasting's not that big a problem.
It is when you're my age and you never do it usually.
But you're younger than me.
You're basically rewarding. The only way you know how to do all this stuff is you've been illegally streaming stuff for years. So you're rewarding all the people. You're punishing the people like me who've paid their good hard-earned money.
You're saying I've been illegally streaming.
I'm not saying that at all.
That's a big allegation.
Well, it is the way they're clamping down on it, isn't it?
I think it's perfect, to be honest. And what I would say is that post that New York Sligo debacle, the 2 following games have been flawless. I mean, not once did it drop, not once any issue. It was like watching it on the television. It was the exact same. And I really don't think casting it off an app that's pretty good and pretty streamlined as these things go is that much of a hassle. That part I don't buy. Oh, why can't I just switch over the channel for it? Like, you couldn't do that with Netflix and Disney and everything like that for a long time either. So this thing's a few weeks old in this country. Like, it's not... Come on.
Okay, give him a bit of patience is what you're saying.
Yeah, give him a bit of patience.
If they put the app there, I'll sign up.
The app... I don't know, is it on smart TVs or not? I'm not sure.
It's not on mine. So if they get there, I'm sure they will get there, and then I'll be perfectly fine with it. I say you're a hurling aficionado, but you're as clueless as me when it comes to this sport in many ways.
All theory.
We were talking to he knows the philosophy behind it, but the actual playing of the game. We were talking to Anthony Nash about Aidan McCarthy, and was reading a piece by Anthony Daly who was talking about the advantages Aidan McCarthy has, the Clare player who's having a brilliant season, about being a lefty. And he said he's a lefty and a natural left hand on top, so difficult to mark because you're not used to coming up against it. With an unconventional catcher grip wise, when he does catch it, he'd be like, where's he gone? With the lad, his right hand on top, he catches it with his left hand and he'll always go to his right with the striking hand. With Aidan, he has the option of going either way, and that's a nightmare for fellas to try and close down. And went through some of the other players who are lefties right now: TJ Reid, Conor Whelan, Jake Morris, Keane Lynch, some of the greats, Anthony himself.
Yep.
And myself and Arthur were trying to figure out the dynamics of it, and quickly discovered that neither of us were really quite sure as to what the correct hurling grip was. Which, as you can imagine, when I was coaching hurling to the under 8s down in Jude's last year, and they were saying, all right, just make sure everyone has the correct hurling grip. There's a good 20 lads there now who may not have the correct hurling grip, and it was probably for the betterment of the club that I'm no longer allowed near the young hurlers of South Dublin.
It's like a butterfly effect.
And they wonder why Dublin hurling is struggling right now.
Yeah.
A load of Mayo lads coming in going, oh, listen, it's a voluntary thing and I'm just helping out. Sure, it's better than nothing, isn't it?
Yeah, this explains so much. Like, so much now at this stage. But it's not for us to know these things. It's only for us to sit and natter on about it on the other side of the microphone. Otherwise, what would we be? There's, not many people have excelled. You didn't see Des Cahill playing full forward for Dublin, did you? Or you didn't see, Michael Lister lining out at cornerback for Galway. No, these people are true media men.
Never saw Joe Malloy playing centre for Leinster, did you? But there he is, chatting about it.
I came across a book written by Joe Malloy today, and it was about the birth of Detroit techno, and I was like, that's an incredibly left field turn from Joe Malloy to be talking about the birth of Detroit techno. Fair play to him, and go out and support Joe's work as an author, but talk about left turns.
The one thing I found from listening to Anthony Nash talk about it, and from reading Anthony Daly, is that there's many ways to hold a hurl, and that really, if you're not holding it in that orthodox fashion, you might well have a massive advantage.
You could
maybe
yeah.
I'm a trendsetter. This guy is a radical thinker in the way he's bringing hurling to the masses.
You've birthed their 20 Mavericks.
Yeah,
that's just what's needed.
Nobody knows what they're going to do. Where are they going to go?
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny because the same thing, and I'm not sure. I think Will was saying he's somewhat similar in the chat there. That so I'm right-handed for effectually everything. Like everything you do right-handed, but I'd hold a hurl with the left hand. It wouldn't feel at all natural to hold in the right hand. Tennis racket, right hand.
Right.
Hurl for some reason, left hand. No idea why. But it wouldn't. So I don't know what that is, and I don't know why that is, and I don't know when you would have picked that up.
Well, Nash was saying he's right-handed, but then also started kicking a football with his left foot, even though he was naturally right-footed.
I was kind of wondering the timeline of that as well.
Maybe they just were confused about whether he was actually right-footed or left-footed, or right-handed and left-handed, and
I don't know. I mean, he said he was on the Cork Miners at that stage. He must.
He is his golfing hero is Phil Mickelson, and Phil Mickelson is left-handed. But the reason Phil Mickelson is left-handed is that his father, who was his coach and was a very good golfer himself, was right-handed, and he would stand in front of him copying his swing. So therefore, he would be doing it in the opposite way, which is why he ended up being a lefty. But everything else, he's right-handed.
There you go. The body's an amazing thing.
53106 is the text number if you want to get in touch. Richie, we'll start with the news round.
Yes, we will indeed. Rory Gallagher says allegations of domestic abuse levelled at him have previously been investigated and dealt with by the relevant authorities. Earlier this week, a social media post from the Derry football manager's wife Nicola detailed a number of alleged incidents of domestic violence. In a statement today, Gallagher said the matter was being handled by his legal team and he will be making no further comment. We've had no comment here at Off the Ball from Derry GAA, but Ulster CEO Brian McAvoy has stated the provincial body does not condone any form of domestic violence this evening, while stipulating that they can't comment on the aforementioned case.
Yeah, this statement was released earlier today through Rory Gallagher's solicitors, and Gallagher said, "I have been made aware of a social media post by my estranged wife, Nicola Gallagher, in which she has made a number of very serious allegations against me. Our marriage broke down over 4 years ago. Those closest to our family are well aware of the reasons for the breakdown of our marriage and the continued issues we have faced since that time. Following long-running court proceedings in family courts in both jurisdictions, I was granted a full residence order in respect of our 3 young children on February 17, 2023. This outcome was recommended by social services. Allegations against me have been investigated and dealt with by the relevant authorities. My focus over the past 4 years has been to protect our children from the ongoing turmoil in our family. I've left this matter in the hands of my legal team and asked for the privacy of our families respected. I'll not be making any further public comment on this matter." As Richie just said, we have reached out to Derry GAA for comment. We haven't heard back from Derry GAA ahead of the Ulster final on Sunday, but if we do, obviously we will update that story as the next few days progress. What else you got for us, Richie?
The Parc des Princes in Paris will host the Republic of Ireland's Euro 2024 qualifier away to France on September the 7th. The home of Paris Saint-Germain has been chosen as the Stade de France will be out of commission due to the Rugby World Cup. Le Parc has a capacity of 47,000 compared with the 80,000 of the Stade de France. It was 1980 when Ireland last played there in a 2-0 defeat to Michel Hidalgo's France, and a rather frightening team it was then too.
Yeah, the speculation was that this would probably be outside of Paris because the night after this is the opening game of the World Cup. So France are playing New Zealand at the Stade de France on the Friday night. Ireland are playing their opening game then on Saturday afternoon. So a lot of people might be able to make it a nice few days. Nice trip to Paris for the Thursday. Get yourself, is it Nantes or Bordeaux that's first up?
I think we're Bordeaux first and then Nantes,
first.
isn't it? Yeah.
It's going to be expensive though.
Very expensive.
That's... I think, yeah, good luck trying to get a hotel in Paris.
Parc des Princes is a nice stadium though. Was that Northern Ireland, Germany there during Euro 2016?
Oh yeah.
Obviously you're a bit away from the ground, but it's actually, listen, anything is better than the Stade de France, which is the worst place in the world to go and watch a game of football at night when you're stuck there at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Champagne problems, Nathan.
Horrible place. I think a lot of people have been to the Stade de France for football matches, and I think we have very recent proof with the Champions League final last year. That is a terrible place for a football match. So Parc des Princes means you still get your trip to Paris, and it's a far more comfortable stadium.
Great. We'll have
You're
that
closer to the city centre as well, aren't you?
You're very close. It's a lot closer to the city centre.
Yeah.
And
it's like,
you seem upset about the fact that it's going to be in the Parc des Princes.
Oh no,
it's more atmospheric there too. I don't know. There's something old school. Like I remember watching like the rugby internationals at the Parc des Princes. It just seems like a more old school, fun-filled venue rather than the sterile bowl that we've had for the past 25 years, 26 years in Saint-Denis.
We have Europa League and Conference League semi-finals tonight.
Yeah, plenty of them. Jose Mourinho comes up against one of his former players in Xabi Alonso in tonight's Europa League semi-finals. Roma welcome Alonso's Bayer Leverkusen to the Stadio Olimpico for their first leg. Further Italian involvement further north too in the other semi with Juventus at home to Sevilla. In the Conference League semis, West Ham welcome Dutch side AZ to the London Stadium. There's one change for the Hammers from their win over Manchester United, with Kurt Zouma restored to their defence. Angelo Ogbonna misses out. Fiorentina play Basel in the other semi-final first leg in the Conference League. West Ham boss David Moyes was asked what he's learned about AZ during the course of his scouting.
I knew something about them. I knew about their the way they're building the club, their young players, the model they follow. They've got a lot of exciting young players. They're following a way of several clubs are going, maybe a little bit towards the Moneyball side of things, signing a lot of young players, which I really like. It's a great model if it suits your club. And but I've got to say that they've got talented footballers. Their young players are doing exceptionally well. They've just won the UEFA League as well. So at the moment it looks like they're building for the future. But they've also got a very good team at this moment in time as well.
Text in from regular contributor Shane Keegan. Just to add to the confusion, be careful not to mix up handed with sided. So he says he's right-handed, i.e. right hand on top, but he swings left-sided. So I think that's what I would do if I was ever let near a pitch with a hurl, which I don't think is ever going to happen, thankfully, at this rate.
Well, certainly not now.
Yeah. I'd be left swinging that way. So that right-sided, but left hand on top.
Exactly.
Okay. I don't know.
So is there a hurling aficionados, and Will Callan's frantically typing, I need to be the number one hurling aficionado. Is there a commonality between the greatest players? And am I making this sound more complicated and interesting than it actually is? I was reading this as there's a massive advantage to playing off your left side.
Well, I think the greats can do it either way, can't they?
Well,
it's no bother to them.
Need to be able to hit off both sides. Again, these are the things I was teaching the 9-year-olds, you know?
Absolutely, no, I know.
now I understand why they were struggling.
They'll reap those benefits in 10 years' time. We'll see that playing out. No doubt about it. But I don't know. Yeah, that's... God, I mean, it's not... Yeah, I don't think any of us are making any sort of miraculous comeback.
And when you wrote this award-winning book on Limerick hurling, this didn't
no
come
awards.
up.
No, I'm not going to... No physical awards. This come up. No. I'm an observer. You know, you don't need to be able to do it.
The camera at Bray against Waterford swung to the Bray goalmouth for 4 Waterford corner kicks in a row. This happened a few weeks ago. The glitches aren't gone away.
Listen, the Carlisle grounds is a unique place. The cold can affect you there, I'd say. That's probably been what's going on there.
GAAGO should be a free-to-air terrestrial channel. They'd make far more in advertising than subscriptions. I think the fact is they wouldn't make far more in advertising than subscriptions. If that was the case, that's what they would go ahead and do. And
maybe we'd get the old mastitis killer commercials back on TV again. That's something that we've lost to a generation of GAA viewers.
Where were they? Were they?
They were all like
Sport?
anytime. No. And literally anytime you go back to old school RTE GAA coverage, especially during an All Ireland final, you will have somebody striking a box, maybe with their right hand on top, over a fence, and it involves killing mange mites, warbles and liver fluke in livestock. You just don't see those ads anymore during the course of GAA. So maybe if it is a terrestrial channel, we will get the lower end of the advertising spectrum, which might be those kind of products returning to TV. Who knows?
Tommy Walsh liked the Ivo Fluke ads he's selling me.
There you go.
Joe Cooney was on them. The first endorsement deal. Didn't know GPA back then, did ya? No chance.
That's remember that was because that was the big turning point when the GPA Part 1 came in, and you had like the Club Energize ads, and you had stuff like that when it did. It was just that bit more professional in its approach rather than the sporadic thing for farming equipment, etc. Sure, look.
I'm going to come across as the least rural person of all time with all my comments tonight, that I literally don't know how to hold a hurl, and I also don't know what Ivo Fluke achieved.
Yeah. It killed liver fluke in livestock.
Wow.
Yeah. To the best of my knowledge, yeah. So you'd have all these things for medicines and sheep dips and all this kind of stuff that was going on back in the day.
Oh, and listen, if Joel Cooney was endorsing it, I was all in on it. There has, when you read that comment about, why don't they just set up a sports station and put all this on as a free to air, there's been some amount of nonsense spoken about this across the week.
Oh, go on.
But just that every inter-county game, championship game, should be free to air. Like, where are they going to show this? There's any amount of inter-county games in the championship. Like, we want some. We don't want to watch all of them.
And in terms of as well, Nathan,
what they should do is set up some sort of a service that the people who want to watch them can just pick that game to go and watch it.
I think what people forget is, in terms of the amount of games that happen at the top level compared to the amount that are televised, the GAA is better served than I think any sport in this part of the world, and I mean probably Northern Europe. I don't think there's any other sport, another sporting body that would see so many of its top level games, and it would include the likes of the under-20s that were on last night in TG Carr, and that the amount of games that are covered versus the amount of games that just generally happen at the top level that are on TV is over and above a lot of what we'd see in the UK and in other parts of Northern Europe. It really, really is. And I think people kind of lose sight of that because, to a degree, we have been spoiled over the last while. Like, no one wants to go back to the situation where there's no live football or hurling until the semi-finals of the All-Ireland. But similarly, we have to realise how far we've come and how much there is actually there on our doorsteps already.
No, so it's a very interesting point that when you look across the rest of the world and their main sports, I won't say national sports, almost all of them I'm sure, have gone behind a paywall. We see, obviously, in the UK, it's a very similar situation in Australia. In America, almost everything now is available in this sort of scenario where it is behind a paywall. Now, there's an argument, I think most of them are maybe a lot more easily accessible on your TV screen. But we do get to see an awful lot. It is the choice of the games.
Some people do get to see an awful lot, but some people don't. I mean, I see people as well, even the last day, say, with Sligo Galway, right? And to an extent, Clare and Kerry. And there was a thing that there's a foregone conclusion element to that. It's like, and fair, both of them went to form. And that as a result of that, neither of them needed necessarily to be shown on television. But you also have, you can't, like...
But that's incredibly insulting to Sligo.
Well, there is that.
If it was Mayo against Galway, nobody would have questioned whether that game should have been on the TV.
No, of course, but that's kind of the point I'm trying to make. But Mayo Galway would always be on the TV. But Sligo, for instance, and I appreciate I'm speaking with some bias from that, will not always get on the TV. So there's a kind of thing we talk about, the thing that we see an awful lot, or we see a thing. The teams that do well, or the teams that are well, kind of have the greatest, say, number of supporters behind them, you'll see them a lot. But the majority of counties you do not see a lot, and you do not see at all, because, like, granted, there's a kind of a limited interest, say, in them. But, like, again, kind of this thing like that Donal Logan, Jackie Tyrrell were talking about the last weekend, there's a limited interest in the Tailteann Cup, say, but it'll be shown. And for some people, that's really a throw.
Well, not much of it is going to be shown. The odd
show
game.
The semi-finals and the final.
Fair enough.
That's not much, though.
But it's only a last round. It's around a 16 type tournament. On. It's not like, I appreciate what you're saying, but my point to the matter, coming back to the matter, is we're saying that you can't show everything. Fine, you can't show everything. And you can kind of happily say that there's a lot shown. But that's because the counties you're interested in will be shown.
Well, Mayo Kerry isn't being shown. It's
not being shown, but that's in these abnormal scenarios we're in now, where the GAAGO has come in as a player to it. But in a regular year, that game's on television, no shadow of a doubt. I'd say there's not a big Mayo game that if you hadn't been able to go, you wouldn't be able to watch on television in the last 10 years.
Damn right.
But you know what I mean? Like, so it's not like.
But isn't that like? Then you're getting into a whole other conversation. The root of the problem for the GAA that you can't dream of winning an All Ireland. Now, I don't come back at me with the irony of me as a Mayo man dreaming of winning All Ireland.
Yeah, well, playing in All Ireland.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but you can't. But like, you are then to a degree. Like, look, we'll be practical about it. I know there's not going to be a kind of almost an ESPN type channel there where it's just going to be games on after games after games. That'll never happen because it isn't practical. Who will pay for it? Like, it's certainly not free to air. It's impossible.
Well, it is going to be practical because I would imagine over the course of this deal, by the end of this deal, GAAGO will be on everybody's smart TV, and it will be the exact same as subscribing to Netflix or anywhere else, and you will pay for it and you will be able to watch every game.
Yeah, well, like, that's great then. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. That's fantastic.
Well, that's why I think the bigger question was actually the one that they are going to have to answer questions about, which is the relationship of the deal between RTE and the GAA. Like, I do think that if you're picking your next 15 games, you would think that Limerick Clare would be in that, Mayo Kerry would be in that. But if you're to make a profitable commercial success of GAAGO this year, you need to put these behind a paywall. To drive subscribers.
It's like, because you definitely are, without a shadow of a doubt, you are boxing people off, and I don't mean necessarily from the price wise. I don't really have an argument with that. Like, they are going to be prohibitive to certain people, but for the majority of people, it's affordable. But what you're talking about, the degree to which it's going to be difficult to access for a range of people, or even from the broadband point of view.
But you're losing the biggest issue with whenever you go behind a paywall, and this is a far greater paywall, I would argue, than Sky was, because Sky has a large enough existing subscriber base and every pub has Sky available to watch, is that I will subscribe to Kerry against Mayo, but I'm not subscribing to Clare Waterford this weekend because there's so much other live sport available on the things I already subscribe to. I'm happy enough with that. But if Clare Waterford was on, I'd probably tune in.
Yeah.
So just passes me by.
I suppose that's just the knock-on effect of it.
That's sport in general.
Yeah.
That's like, you only have to look at the participation rates and stuff like that in cricket over in the UK since it went behind a paywall after the Ashes in 2005. Like,
you don't see many young lads driving Formula 1 cars these days, do you?
You don't. Well, up around my area. No, I'm joking. That happens, and that kind of ghettoising of sport behind paywalls has been going on for 30 years since the Premier League. And the Premier League, through sheer dint of force of personality and the amount of money behind it, is able to rise above whatever wall happens to be behind. But there are other sports definitely that have suffered, and for all the talk of Drive to Survives and the increased presence of Formula One, say, like, it's nowhere near where it was in terms of availability and visibility when it was on BBC One and even laterally ITV and Channel 4. Like, it's just a fact.
Lads, hypocrisy abounds with GAAGO. If Leitrim were playing Sligo on GAAGO behind a paywall, there's no issue. But when the GA royalty are behind a paywall, all hell breaks loose, which I think is sort of reflective of what you're saying. But the problem is, as much as we might as much as we don't want to admit it, there is a national interest in Mayo against Kerry and Limerick against Clare that isn't there for Leitrim against Sligo.
Yeah.
So,
but like, I mean,
you're
fine.
not going to put Leitrim against Sligo on free to air for the whole country to see.
You're not, but like, yeah, fine. But like, I don't know about that. There's not national interest in a. Yeah, okay, fine. It's very hard to argue that point.
He's broken. He's like,
it's
night
true.
4, I'm done.
It's true. It is true. There are things like that you'll put on, and more people than not who have an interest in sport will watch them. I don't know if that necessarily is still a just argument that what's most popular gets the most airtime and that's it. Because I don't think that system helps it doesn't help anybody. You look at the League of Ireland by comparison. No one watched it. Oh, no one cares about it. Don't put it on TV. You put it on TV now, and as Dan was saying on the football show, that there's going to be after this weekend a game, everything for the next 2 months or something. That's going to have an effect. No shadow of a doubt that will enter your mind more often than not if you see it there every Friday or Saturday when you're coming, just flicking through the channels. So I don't know if just going, well, what's most popular will go on and forget the rest. I don't know. Sport, obviously, it is completely partisan, so it depends on what you're interested in watching. You're not going to, but I don't see that changing, so there's really no point getting too upset about it.
There's a couple more stories, Richie.
There's semi-final lineup in the Electric Ireland Munster Minor Football Championship will be settled tonight. There are 7 o'clock throw-ins in both of these games. Cork, as they approach half-time at Porky Queeve, lead Kerry by 1-8 to 7 points. And in the other game tonight, which is the Phase 1 final, Limerick are 6 points to 3 up against Tipperary. As I say, both of those games approaching half-time. Dave Carney today confirmed he's leaving Leinster at the end of this season. The 33-year-old was given his provincial debut by Michael Cheika on the final day of the season in 2009 and was part of the side that dismantled the Cell Sea Sharks just last weekend. Carney has earned 185 Leinster caps to date, scoring 55 tries along the way. He played every minute of Ireland's Six Nations campaign and a winning one too in 2014. The winger has been linked with a move to Chicago Hounds in American Major League Rugby.
Any message from Joe Biden?
Nothing just yet, although I'd imagine he'll probably, have one for him when him and Adam Byrne seemingly arrive in Chicago.
Shane Dowling, right-handed, right hand on top, strikes off the left side. Penalty against Cork, a good example. Should have had that in your book.
The penalty is in there. There's a great story in that.
You did go on.
There's a great story. So
you can't buy the book at the moment. Is it back?
You can buy it. You can buy it on Amazon. Buy it on Amazon. It's there.
I thought you'd be totally against buying it on Amazon.
Just to want to sell the book. I don't care where you buy it. Buy it on Amazon. It's there.
Oh, okay.
There's a great. Paul Brown was injured that year, but he was still on the sideline. I think I don't know if he'd done his ACL or whatever he'd done, but it was out for the year. And there was a great part where he was on the pitch in that penalty in extra time, and he was stood out beside. He was bringing water out or whatever, and he was stood out beside Declan Hannon, and kind of asked him what's going to happen here with Dowling about to take the penalty. And Mike Casey, who was obviously in the Piercing as well, I think, was just stood behind him, and he just goes something like, "Top corner, kid," and it's just Dowling, boom, top corner, and it's just like, it was just incredible. You just couldn't believe it. Place erupts. Greatest day so far for Limerick, that run.
All right, there we go. Richie, thank you as ever.
Nice and lads.